Hi everyone, Dave from Photography Toolkit here. Today's challenge is the pinhole challenge. So what I've done is I've gotten a cap that goes on the front body of my camera. I've cut a hole in it and I've got a piece of tin, aluminum from a drinking can, and I've made a little tiny hole in it with a pin. That's why it's called a pinhole. And I'm going to try to take some pictures. I just put that back on the camera and I won't be able to see through the viewfinder. So to compose, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use live view. I'm going to keep it on a tripod to keep it steady because I'll probably have really slow shutter speeds. And I'll probably use a cable release to take the picture. And I'm looking, hopefully I can get some sharp images because there is no lens. It's just the pinhole right to the sensor. So I'm going to see how that works, give it a shot. It'll be lots of fun. I've got the live view on so I can compose. It's not as close as that, but it's closer than that. So let's see what I can get. I'm doing a manual exposure. So I'm just going to take a picture. I can't select the aperture because the aperture is what it is. So that's the aperture, and I'm going to try different shutter speeds and different ISOs. Trying to get some blur here, some moving past. Okay, so I've got this moving water, so I'm going to try to get a slow shutter speed. So I've dropped my ISO way down, and I'm going to try 2 to 4 seconds to try to get this picture. Let's see how it goes. I've got this on a tripod, and I'm using the shutter release. You can hear that. That's the 4-second exposure. And let's see how that looked. A bit bright. So I'm going to try halving that, putting it down to 2. And you know what? I may even try 1 second. There we go. Okay, so my pinhole, I can see those things. Okay, I found another angle that I kind of like, sort of from behind here. I'm going to try that. I'm starting at a second, and we'll see how that looks. Kind of got these dark brooding skies, which is kind of cool. So my ISO, I can actually bring it down to 64 on this camera, so I can bring it down one more stop. I'm thankful that I have the live view option so I can compose my image and see what's going on, and then I can explore and play with it and try different things. So I'm under the bridge here. It's kind of cool scene. However, even with my live view on, you'll notice that it's very dark. Can't really see anything, just a little tiny bit. So I'm going to experiment with the exposure, but starting at about 2 seconds, ISO 800, and I'm going to go from there and see what it looks like. It's not bad. Sort of this tunnel here. It's kind of cool. So I might darken it just a bit. So to darken it, I can either lower the ISO or so I've lowered the ISO there, that's going to darken it, or I could increase the shutter speed. Either one will darken the image because I'm in manual mode. Okay, so we've got these lines on this bridge, and I'm going to try, again, I'm going to play around with different ISOs and shutter speeds. That's all I've got control over. Right now, that's another 2-second exposure at ISO 100. And it actually has come out quite well. Now, there's not a lot of people around today, so I'm not going to be able to really get anybody in this shot unless I'm waiting around for a while. But it's a quite a long exposure, so they would be blurred anyway. So I've got this tunnel here, and what I've done is I've increased my shutter speed to a second and increased my ISO to 2500 because it's quite dark. What I'd love to get is somebody coming through the tunnel, like sort of a silhouette, and be able to capture them. Now it's a slow shutter speed, so they might be a blur. Here comes somebody on a bike. See if I can grab these shots here as they come in. Now I'm going to try to capture an image here, and I got to use a faster shutter speed, so I'm using about 1/10 of a second. And let's see if that works. And with the pinhole, it sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't. But let's see if I can capture these people in front of this building. 1/10 of a second, ISO 1600. Okay, so I've got this tree, these fence posts, and there's shop houses on the other side. So I want to take advantage of these lines that are going past on the left-hand side, but I also want to be able to see the fence post and the shops that are on the other side of the water. So I'm going to try to see if I can get a couple shots here. I don't mind if people come into the shot. They might give it a blur. I got a 4-second exposure, which is quite long. So they're going to be quite blurred. So maybe I'm going to turn the ISO up. I'm going to go up to 400 and turn my shutter speed down to a second. Let's see if that can capture the same exposure. Yeah, that's not too bad. So I'm looking to maybe get some movement in here on this picture. I've got, actually, I'm looking for about a 1/2 a second. So I'm starting with my shutter speed, which is 1/2 a second. And then I'm changing my ISO to give me the correct exposure. And that looks pretty good. So what I'm gonna do, there are some people walking the bottom there, but I don't think you're gonna be able to see them in the final picture. So I'm looking for, here comes a lot of traffic. This is kind of what I'm looking for. Trying to get some pictures of a blur of traffic going by. Change it to continuous high to try to get some movement. There we go. So that's kind of cool. I think that's working quite well. Now we've got some cars stopping in the foreground, which will have some other cars zooming past in the background. So that might look cool as well. Dark skies behind me for my reflection on the pinhole challenge. So how did it go? Well, I used to do this type of photography with photographic paper, and you'd make a camera, but you would set the camera down and you couldn't necessarily tell where it was. You couldn't compose extremely well. So I really liked having a camera that had a live view screen so I could compose properly and see what was in my shot. And that was really, really important. The variable screen on the back of the camera was great as well. It allowed me to be able to look and have the camera a little bit lower and be able to compose easily. I was using the Nikon D850, which has a giant sensor size, so that was great. And I was in manual mode all the time because there is one aperture, so the camera, I'm going to set the shutter speed and the ISO of the camera because the aperture is the same the whole time. The hole is exactly the same. So I needed to just play with those things, and lots of time I needed quite a slow shutter speed. Generally it was between 1 and 2 seconds, so I had to have it on the tripod, and I was using a cable release, but I tried to also speed it up sometimes. I don't know how good the colors and the sharpness is going to be coming out, but this is just part of the fun of this challenge. So I did try a few different things, and would I do this again? Absolutely. I think it's a nice thing to slow you down. It looks kind of different. I can't wait to see the results on when I get home. So looking forward to more challenges. Hope you enjoyed this one.